I wanted to talk about how the grudges you hold will hold onto you. Um, Recently, I had some pretty strange. I've had a pretty strange month, the month of January. But a lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of strange, and basically one of my old friends who I'd ended up having issues with over the past year or so, um, had a heart attack, and he got into hospital. At the time, he was at high risk of passing away, which to me I didn't really know how to feel about it, honestly. Um, it was quite scary, and quite shocking. And I didn't feel any sort of guilt or anything behind, the issues we had and all this stuff or whatnot. But it just felt strange. It'd been petty fucking arguments back and forth for over a year. Some serious shit was said and some stupid shit was said, and none of it should have happened. But it is what it is. It's old news now. But, well, I decided to message him. Just to, tell him, like, no matter what happens, that I don't hold a grudge against him, and that it's, I have no hatred towards him, and I never have. Have I been pleased or, accepted the things that he's done? No. But I'm certain he feels the same way about me. I'm certain he feels the same way about me. But, I felt like I should tell him that. And we kind of just went back and forth about things that had been said and what we'd done and, how stuff went and how it shouldn't have really been that way. And about, the good times and stuff like that. And I remember I was talking to him, and I brought up this one experience that we had a few years ago that I still remember very, very vividly, very well. Is that we were sat in my kitchen in my old house, and this guy had a lot of mental issues, a lot of struggles during his life, which is, the stuff he told me was awful. And I just sat, we just sat talking, and I was just saying to him that it's easy to want to feel alone, and it's easy to, when people say that you're not alone, it's easy to be like, yeah, okay. And obviously these things come with good intention, but there's no action behind it sometimes, and it just feels like nothing. But I was telling him that with me, I mean it. I truly mean it. Because I've been that person, and I've been that guy who suffered alone for a long time, and I wore a mask. And, the pain that I've been through has allowed me to develop as a person, and to use, the pain that I'd earned, and the pain that I've been given, and flip it for a positive light to show people how to, or give people guidance on how to not suffer the same way I did, or feel pain the same way I did, just because I know how awful it feels. And I don't think anyone deserves it. And I was just telling him that, and I remember he started crying. And obviously, as a man, especially, it takes a lot of strength to cry in front of another man or in front of anyone. And in a strange way, I felt very connected in that moment, even though I didn't cry. I just, and I think it was the sense of like allowing, my words allowed him to express a visceral emotion that had probably been bottled up for a while. And we were talking about that on the message. We were talking about it back and forth, and my eyes started to water, and it was very strange. And I kind of went a bit, I started tweaking out, truthfully. So I was just so overwhelmed. I was so overwhelmed with emotion that I just didn't really know what to do, and I was going to go back home. Back home to my mum's and stuff like that, and it was just very strange. But I got news 2 days ago now that he's okay. He's still in hospital. They put him in a coma, but he's come out of it now, and he's doing alright. He also said that, I doubt we'll ever cross paths again. And if we do, it's civil, there's nothing there. And that he wants to leave the scene that we were all in behind. And I hold zero grudge towards him about any of it. And the things, that were said, and the things that were shared and told and lied about between all this squabble, some of it was bad. But to this day, I don't hold a grudge against him. Just due to the fact that once you conjure up a grudge, once you feed it, once you start to nurture it and look after it and care for it, it grows an attachment to you, and it grows a care for you, and you grow care for it. And that grudge grows, and it grows, and it grows. Doesn't matter if it's a week, 2 months, 3 years, it will keep growing. And you've got to look at it like a little child, or a little boy, or a little girl, and you're raising it, and you're creating it from the ground up. But the problem is the infrastructure it's built off is weak, and it's filled with hate and vengeance and spite. And anything built with anger, with hate, with sorrow, with sadness, majority of the time has cracks. And eventually the child will grow up that you've made, and the mask will start to crack the older it gets. And eventually, once the mask cracks, the thing that you've created has caught up to you. It's the same age as you, looks like you, breathes like you, walks like you, and it's come out. And that grudge, that hatred, that sadness, the sorrow, the pain, it all comes out. Maybe to yourself, maybe to other people. It doesn't matter. You've brought something into this world, and now you have to deal with it. And other people do, unfortunately. And it really is it's just consuming. Holding a grudge is just consuming of you. And for me, I used to hold grudges, not a lot, but I did hold grudges quite dear. And for a period of, my younger years, as I kind of held a grudge towards people in my family, some people who I didn't even know, or people who I used to know. You holding on to the grudges means you hold on to the emotions that were attached to that time. of when the grudge was created, when that hatred was created, when that pain was created. And I took a lot of those things through my life for a long time, a lot of those emotions. And I'd say only just within the past 2 years I've really started to break those walls down and look back and be like, I don't need to not trust everyone. I don't need to hate everyone. I don't need to feel sadness all the time to feel normal, because it isn't normal to feel all those things to be human. Don't get me wrong, we need those emotions to be human, but to feel human doesn't mean you need to feel all these negative emotions, which is what my philosophy was back in the day, was that if I feel hatred, if I feel sadness, then I know I'm truly alive. But I'd twisted it, I'd twisted the fact that if you can feel pain, it means you're alive, and it's supposed to be a celebration of that I'm still alive, I'm still going, and but I looked at it in the opposite way of like, I need to feel the pain to keep going, and I need to feel the hatred and the sadness and the wallowing and the sorrow and depression and misery just to keep going, and it's not right. And all those things were, most of those things were attached to grudges. And I became the grudges that I held. I became the hatred. I became all those negative emotions balled up into a person. And like what I said before, I created and built a person out of the grudges, and it became me. It became a symbiotic relationship. And it's, if I kept feeding those grudges and those negative emotions, it'd feed me to keep going. And it didn't. Because it fed on me. And it ate me alive. You can't allow your grudges to become you, because they just take over your life. And they just take over you. They destroy you from the inside out. You become what you hold a grudge against. And it's easy to want to fall into that, and it's easy to want to be negative, because it's so easy to do it. The strong and the heroic are the people who keep going with a smile on their face, not driven by hatred or sadness or whatever, doesn't matter. They're driven by the positive, not the negative. Grudges, the thing is, at the end of the day, you've got to look at them, they're just temporary. It's like trying to hold onto a fruit that's still rotten. The fruit is rotten and you're just holding onto it saying, no, I'm going to eat it tomorrow, I'm going to eat it tomorrow. No, you're not. You're not going to eat it, you're not going to get rid of it. You're just holding onto it forever because you think you're going to find some use for it. And you don't. Sometimes the things that you attach yourself to, you have to let go to be released from your chains and your shackles to keep moving forward. It's not comfortable, it's not fun, and it's just an awful feeling. But at the end of the day, it's worth it. I still do struggle with trust and stuff like that, but I now can sit and not just automatically assume the worst from someone, and I can trust most of the things they say and the words that they say. Even if my brain automatically switches to, nah, it's fake, the rational part will come in, and that's because I've let go of a lot of my old grudges from people who I don't even speak to anymore, and I haven't spoken to in years, or I don't even know what they're doing with their life anymore, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These things are so temporary, but we put them on such a high horse. And in reality, grudges are things that you overcome. You let go. You will just become the person that you hate with the grudge. You will just become them. And that's for another video, that you will become what you hate. So, bottom line, don't hold on to grudges, because they are temporary, and those emotions are temporary, and you will overcome them. And you will be better than them, because you will become the people you hold the grudge against. So